Hello, it is Josh Bloom, proprietor of this podcast. I am writing this intro today from the P, the scene of many daily episodes of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. And since we have so many days to go, maybe many more, I am overhearing the roundtable discussion of a group of supporters of the leader of the Trump administration, although supporters may be the wrong word. They accept his leadership, which is close to as bad, but I know these to be decent people, so I don't want to pin the word supporters on them. How are you? I am mostly asking because this is a one-way conversation at this exact moment. It's not because I don't care. I do. It's because it is just easier to ask when you know you won't receive an answer. That reminds me, I ran into my brother, who doesn't speak to me, here in the P earlier this week, and I said hey to him, and he said, "How are you?" instinctually. But when I told him how I was and reminded him that I am open to talk at any time, he ultimately told me that he was uncomfortable, and I just left with my coffee. I guess he didn't really want to know how I was after all, you know? If you remember, last week I said that I was going to see the R.E.M film Eddington as a celebration for turning in the manuscript of my book and as a way to dip back into writing about a subject that is not the subject of my book, which you also may remember me talking about incessantly. First of all, I had to look up why the draft of a book is called a manuscript. In the publishing world, a manuscript is your book in raw form. I like to think of my book as raw, so that is kind of cool. But yes, I did turn in the manuscript, and my editor emailed me to say he is halfway through and loves it so far, which was nice, but I believe that is how an editor softens a writer up before coming in with notes. We'll see. But back to Eddington. Unfortunately, if you remember I was going to see it, I didn't remember that I wouldn't be able to go. I forgot. Since I haven't been to a movie since January, that if a movie isn't successful, it might not be playing anymore when you try to see it. So I am shooting for this Sunday to see something. Hopefully I will have completed the deep clean of my apartment that I have been neglecting while I was writing the book. Remember the book? More news on that soon. I am now eating a bagel at the P as I continue to write. I have to keep it real and call out this bagel for what it is, which is round bread, but it is nicely toasted round bread, and best of all, it was only $1. As the writer, poet, content creator, podcaster, struggling humorist, dime store philosopher, and on the precipice of being published nonfiction author, you can imagine that the credit card companies that continue to take a risk on me are quite happy to see that I eat breakfast for $1.08. I was also offered a new deal to stay a member of the Sip Club here at the P, so coffee for me is effectively free. If the P ever chose to sponsor me, I will pitch the idea of marketing the bagels as round bread. Bagel is too ethnically touchy for these times. I'm Jewish, and I can say this. Also, my Sip Club membership should not keep you from buying me a coffee. $3 may not mean much to you, but not only does $3 mean much to me, the gesture is priceless. When I receive that notification that someone has bought me a coffee, it is like the most life-affirming experience a person can have. Maybe all of this effusive praise will convince the buy me a coffee people to buy me a coffee, which would be financially affirming, life affirming, and affirming that the affirmed life can get more meta by the moment. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Josh Bloom. You won't regret it, but even if you do, I already got your money. Thank you. This is episode 43 of the Josh Bloom is happily stuffing an Asiago cheese round bread with butter in his face, which tastes great, but is a total affront to the culinary and cultural traditions associated with the cuisine of his people podcast, which is known among fans as the Josh Bloom Podcast. It is the latest edition of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, days 194 through 200. Yes, 200. I want to make two small announcements. One, I will continue to upload these weekly compilations of my 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration posts. And two, as I begin to incorporate other writings back into my life, I will read those writings for the podcast as well. I am looking forward to having more opportunities to ask you to buy me a coffee. This week on the show, I have to tell you that I will reveal what a mild spiral is on day 200, and you don't want to miss it. But first, on day 194, I am reminded of the R.E.M. song These Days from the band's best album. Do you know which one it is without looking? My thoughts on this day are about the anxiety that every content creator has about views. It doesn't matter how big or small your following is, that is the trap we willingly spring on ourselves. There is a temptation to post more incendiary content about the leader of the Trump administration, but that would lead me away from my point of view. I owe it to myself to find the balance between being Josh and being a view whore. I will figure that out. On day 195, I contemplate, what if there was a history book written by a higher power? Later I thought, some people would say that's the Bible, but that is not what I am saying. I am wondering about a history book about the universe that discusses an individual planet the way a U.S. history book discusses the country. You can probably guess where my thoughts lead once you know I reference This Is America by Childish Gambino. It's too bad that Donald Glover's epic song was as prescient as it was historical, but at least we have it to listen to as entertainment despite its harrowing content. On day 196, I dropped the truth bomb that the leader of the Trump administration is no Derek Zoolander, which is about as lighthearted as it gets on day 196, because I have to drop the real truth bomb that this dum-dum is going to have his portrait in the classrooms of the next generation of children. Think of it this way. His unholy visage will be a constant reminder to children across the land to seek a deeper sense of personal understanding that comes from communicating with transparency and respect. It is a lesson that may never have been learned if it was not so necessary. On day 197, I address the chatter about no more elections. There are many people who are afraid that there will be no more elections, and I do not believe that we should be worried about that. All politicians are corrupt on some level, our system is corrupt on some level, existence is corrupt on some level. Knowing that, some people, like the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, are worse, much, much worse than others, but people like that are only fulfilling their roles. Just like you expect Han Solo to act like Han Solo and not Princess Leia, right? I'll explain that. Stay tuned. On day 198, I bring up Ron Burgundy for the first time, and it is about time I did. I think that Ron is a more trusted news source these days than any media maven, and that goes for my fellow content creators. As I had pointed out earlier, there is such a strong motivation to post content that satisfies the craving for views that it becomes difficult to take much of anything seriously. Ron Burgundy is a fictional character, so at least I know his motivation is moot. I stay classy on day 199, which by being day 199 is the penultimate day before 200. What a crazy milestone. Do you remember the song I'm Afraid of Americans by David Bowie and Trent Reznor? Go listen to it after you listen to this podcast. On day 199, I revealed that I don't think of myself as an American or even an Earthling. These are such limiting labels. I am just Josh, which is a label that was given to me but is in no way limiting because Josh is always undefined. I don't feel any need whatsoever to pin an identity on myself other than being a man who is a fan of the song I'm Afraid of Americans. And then, drumroll, day 200, wow, I reveal what a mild spiral is, which is a made-up nervous breakdown management philosophy that you won't want to miss because giving out unsolicited, unqualified, and highly helpful advice such as this is part of what we both have bargained for as the creator and listener to the Josh Bloom podcast. Seriously though, we all suffer from the onslaught of life's unexpected challenges, so here's a thought about how to cope. What does that have to do with the unheralded character Florrie from Pee-wee's Playhouse? I will explain this, because explaining is the point. Justice for Florrie! Have you been over to YouTube to watch the video compilation of these daily TikTok posts? Well, you should, and when you are there, you should subscribe to my channel. You should also go over to TikTok and follow me there. You aren't on TikTok? Well, I don't blame you. It is often a total hellscape, but you have no excuse to not watch on YouTube, so do it. A link is in the show notes, and links to all my social media can be found at superjews.com. That's superjews.com. Thanks as always for listening, and now let's get into 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. By the way, the crush I mentioned last week ghosted me. And if that doesn't motivate you to buy me a coffee, then I will think of some other form of manipulation before I'm back. See you then. Day 194 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. This video will not receive an especially significant amount of views. In fact, when it comes to measuring the anxiety of a typical content creator, these videos get very few views to the point of the "I'm going to quit doing this" level of views. I am speaking in the spirit of vulnerability by saying this because no one wants to admit that they are disappointed in their views. But by admitting that I am disappointed in my views, I am reminding myself that I am not disappointed in my point of views, because I can make a good turn of phrase like that. And it's those good turns of phrases and the ability I have to turn my negative tude into a good mood that has allowed me to counter low views with the knowledge that there are some people who have told me personally how much they appreciate what I'm doing, and those few people are enough. By the way, I would love to get to 10,000 followers so that I can join the Creator Fund. Please like, comment, and follow. Also, just so you know, I release each week's posts as one compiled podcast. Just look up the Josh Bloom podcast in your favorite podcast app. I record a lengthy intro and outro for each episode, and that is the only place you can hear it. Anyway, back to day 194, 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I also believe in the ideology behind doing this. I believe that the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration has presented us with existential challenges that we were not expecting when we were growing up. Over the past 10 years, the leader of the Trump administration has destabilized society, stabilized institutions, and destabilized the way we conceive of our future. I believe in providing a voice for mindfulness, optimism, and hope, even if those only feel like words on certain days, because there's always the next day, and that's part of what I'm saying here. There always has to be a next day, and that includes the days when I feel like, why am I doing this? These days will come and go, which reminds me of the song These Days by R.E.M, which appears on my favorite R.E.M album, Life's Rich Pageant. Doing this project takes energy, time, and resources, and that is another reason I'm continuing, because it is a project. It is an exercise. It is a responsibility. It is about getting through these moments where I am wondering if it is worth it to continue, and deciding that, of course, it is, because life is about choices and commitments and courage. And today, as it will be tomorrow, it is about honoring the obligation to ignore the Trump administration. Day 195 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. What if there were a history book by a higher power? I am listening to the audiobook of These Truths by Jill Lepore. This book was recommended by Amanda Nelson, who I have tagged here. It is difficult to listen to the history of the United States, I must say. So far, I am only 7% of the way through it, which is something I noticed because of keeping track of the percentage of time that has elapsed in 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I'm getting there, but man, that first 7%, it's not a lot of fun. And it's not unexpected that it's not going to be a lot of fun, but man, this country, when you hear it back from the deeply researched, compiled, and documented perspective of an historian, it not only confirms what you know about how this country was founded and built, but it connects with the people who gave the abuse and the people who took the abuse. This is America, as Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, pointed out just 7 years ago. It is scary because it is hard to let go of the feeling that we're just caught in a moment in history where we are seeing our version of these foundational abuses that have always existed. And then if you pull back to before America even existed, you realize human abuse throughout recorded time. It seemed to me at first that abuse was contingent on one's belief or not in a Christian God, and that is what subjected you to having your life taken or not taken from you. But as it turns out, many of the abused took their own lives because they believed that in accepting death, they would be going somewhere better. It also turns out that the abusers believed that it was God who commanded them to enact the abuse. Sounds familiar to me when it comes to the justification of hypocrisy that we see and hear from the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration. What if there were a history book by a higher power? A history of all humanity throughout the universe where one planet is discussed in the way one country is discussed. And perhaps it says, and on this planet that was named Earth, people treated each other in this despicable way, which is why this planet only existed for such a small amount of time. If such a viewpoint on the history of humanity on Earth existed, it would add some context to explain why throughout recorded human history, the single consistent fact is the constant abuse of people by other people. It is difficult to hear, but I have 93% more, and I will be listening in the time I gain as I ignore the Trump administration. Day 196 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. Josh Bloom, so hot right now. Josh Bloom, I'm just trying to help myself. If this series was less about reassuring myself and you that we are going to be better for surviving the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, and was instead more incendiary and fear-mongering about the opposite, I would probably get more engagement. That's not about social media. That's about the drama of life. I know this to be true from personal experience because I do sprinkle in some more pointed, opinionated, rhetoric-based posts that are in my more casual persona that I do get more engagement on. But I am not interested in making incendiary posts unless the mood strikes. And usually it strikes because I find the behavior of the leader of the Trump administration so absurd. I prefer to discuss how life can be better. America has long needed a polarizing figure like the leader of the Trump administration to force us to have to deal with our polarized society. I was very naive when Barack Obama was elected. I thought racism was over and found out the hard way, as many people did, that racism was alive and well and ready to rock, and now it's rocking. Only when the people of the entire nation can find respect for one another in our shared human condition, our shared reality of not being asked if we even wanted to be born in the first place, our shared reality of being forced to deal with life because even the rich have to die one day, even the rich have to face rejection, even the rich have to walk around not knowing what will happen next. We are being forced to confront ourselves through the reign of the leader of the Trump administration, a victim himself. A victimizer, to be sure, but a victim himself of life's conditions. Do you think he wants to look like that? I don't think so. If I looked like that, it would make me very, very angry. I would want to lash out at people too. He is no Derek Zoolander. The leader of the Trump administration's reign will force the people to have to figure out how to get along with one another in a more transparent, communicative, and respectful manner, and we will get there. His picture is going to be on the classroom walls of children yet to be born because he was the president twice, and that's just how it goes. But the history books will show that the people survived him, and that is what really matters. So when the day is getting you down and you feel like you can't take any more, please take a deep, deep breath and just try to ignore the Trump administration. Day 197 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. May the force be with you. I'm just trying to help myself. There aren't going to be any more elections. The reason why it is good that Republicans are trying to gerrymander the shit out of the upcoming midterm elections is because they must think there are going to be midterm elections. So all of this chit chat about there aren't going to be midterm elections, that is a good sign that not only lets you know that there will be elections, that is a good sign that you can start not paying attention to this idea that there are not going to be elections. I'm just here to tell you, as an advocate for ignoring the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, this guy is not very bright. The people around him are not very bright. The people who will comment trying to insult me for saying they are not very bright are also not very bright. They're people who see an opportunity to take advantage of other people who won't fight back as dirty and without shame or morality as they do. But now morality is on the line. I always said they would have to take us to the bottom before we would be able to clearly see what the bottom looks like. What happens when that happens is you end up in a situation like we are in with the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, where they'll just keep seeing how much we're gonna take. And frankly, if they are doing that, I would say I don't really blame them, because we know they are garbage people, and that is what garbage people do. They are fulfilling their role. Job well done, garbage ones. When you go see Star Wars and Harrison Ford comes on the screen as Han Solo, you don't expect him to all of a sudden play Princess Leia, because he is not Princess Leia. He is Han Solo. So these Republican dum-dums are just being exactly what they are, and what we unfortunately have to do is be a new character as Democrats or independents or whatever the hell it is called, who opposes the leader of the Trump administration, that melting pile of PDF fondue in the White House that has been placed on our timeline. Whatever we are, we need to step out of character and redefine ourselves in a way that says, you know what? You want to mess with us? We're going to lay down some thunder on you that you weren't expecting, because not only are we ready to kick some ass because you've left us no choice, but we are also way smarter than you. That is what needs to happen. Otherwise, they're going to just gerrymander the election. They're going to keep the House and gain seats, and we're going to get beat when they cheat. Let's be a new Han Solo for the next generation. Don't worry about there not being an election, and just ignore the Trump administration. Day 198 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. You stay classy, San Diego. I'm just trying to help myself. I do not whisper into the microphone a dozen times a day about the latest nonsense coming out of the very small mouth of the leader of the Trump administration. I also don't say a dozen times a day, we have some breaking news. I also don't say, I watched Donald Trump's press conference so you don't have to. I don't have anything against creators such as these. I don't have anything against social media-based journalists. I don't have anything against debaters who make healthy livings debating here or elsewhere. I don't have anything against Ron Burgundy, because how could I? I watch all of these creators occasionally, including Ron Burgundy, and so I contribute to these healthy livings. I think that's completely fine, but what I will say is that, like the mainstream media, these creators are at least partially motivated to keep you on the edge of your seat with their content, which is exactly the same way the leader of the Trump administration runs his con. Both of these sides keep us distracted from focusing on ourselves. Now, you could say, well, Josh, you're trying to get views, you're trying to get engagement, you're trying to potentially make money. Those are symptoms of what my actual goal here is, which I have stated all along. My goal is the betterment of people's lives through the betterment of my own. When the leader of the Trump administration was elected again, I felt the same sense of doom that I felt the first time he was elected, but I felt it more. I felt it in a way that wasn't about a sense of doom connected to fear. It was a sense of doom connected to reality, connected to a fact of life, which is that a significant portion of society finds the values and perspective and agenda of the leader of the Trump administration to be something they believe in. And for some, something they would die for. I decided to work through those feelings through this daily series as a daily catharsis, as a daily writing exercise, as a daily discipline that allows me to remove myself from the media cycle, which includes the creators here who whisper into the mic, the creators here who say we have some breaking news, and the creators here who say I watched Donald Trump's press conference today, so you don't have to, because that, again, is information overload that takes us away from using our precious time to make our lives better, to make the lives of our loved ones better, and make the world around us better. These are not criticisms. I have no reason to criticize my fellow citizens' forms of communication. This is simply a reminder to ignore the Trump administration. Day 199 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. The name I was assigned is Josh Bloom. And I'm just trying to help myself. Wow. 199 days of doing this? 199 days of doing this? I don't know if I can think of something I have done 199 days in a row other than wake up and get out of bed. But I am happy to have arrived at the penultimate day before 200. And I have to say that right before I started recording this, I saw a video proclaiming America's decline. This smart-seeming person explained how we were on the decline, and every empire, as he called it, eventually reaches a point where it is on the decline. Now, I'm an American, sure. I've never thought of myself as an American. I really don't think about it unless I'm thinking about that kick-ass David Bowie song with Trent Reznor called I'm Afraid of Americans. I'm an earthling. Sure, but I've never thought about myself as an earthling. I'm just Josh. And the reason I'm Josh is because that's the name my parents gave me. It's not my identity, it's just a way to identify myself. I am conscious of the fact that I'm alive, and within the context of that life, I am attempting to experience as much joy as possible. And I have come to believe that one of the essential ways to experience joy in life is to bring joy to the lives of others. Now, I have not always been successful at this. In fact, I have been a goddamn failure at it many times for many years. Even when my heart was in the right place, sometimes it just came off as creepy. I didn't mean to, but we live in a world when sometimes when we sincerely express enthusiasm, it makes people think we're not being real. Because so many people don't look at life enthusiastically. They look at it as something to complain about. They look at the people around them as someone to complain about. And they look at day 199 as a reason to complain, just like they look at day 198, 197, and you know what the hell I mean. So I'm just trying to say that it is up to us individually, whether you consider yourself an American, an earthling, or a Josh, to take personal responsibility for our own happiness, because no one else is going to. And the ones who look at life and people and each day as a reason to complain, like the one I'm thinking about who requires no identification, can continue to follow their leader while we ignore the Trump administration. Day 200 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I know you are, but what am I? I'm just trying to help myself. Have you ever heard of a mild spiral? Well, I don't think you have because I just made it up, so don't lie. A mild spiral is when you experience several difficult life events at the same time and it makes you feel like you are going to have a nervous breakdown, or as the kids say these days, it makes you feel like you are going to crash out. Except instead of having a total nervous breakdown or just stuffing your feelings somewhere like some kind of maniac, you actually allow yourself to have a mild spiral. You let yourself freak the fuck out like whatever just happened to you is the worst. It has never been so bad and it'll never get any better. The trick is the spiral is mild, so you only allow yourself to feel this way for a few hours or maybe a day and a half. The leader of the Trump administration has let his mild spiral go on for almost 80 years. That's his entire life, and that's too long. You can see what happens when you are not mindful of the amount of time you allow your mild spiral to endure. You end up cheating on all of your wives with your tiny junk. I'm just kidding. It's teeny tiny junk. Let's be honest. But seriously, you have to watch your behavior when you're in a mild spiral. You cannot go overboard. If you let a mild spiral go on too long, like the leader of the Trump administration and the members of the Trump administration do, it becomes your whole perspective on life. And then you're constantly overreacting to every difficult circumstance that life presents. For me, I just finished writing a book and now I'm freaking out about what I'm going to do next. My crush just ghosted me and my brother isn't speaking to me. There are going to be those moments, those minutes, those hours, those days, those weeks, those months, those years when you are going to feel like that's it. I cannot take any more. And that is the moment when you can voluntarily enter a mild spiral. Do you remember the character Flory on Pee-wee's Playhouse? Flory was not a particularly memorable puppet like Cherry was, I will admit. Flory was the floor. And Flory had spiral eyes. Think of Flory when you enter your mild spiral. Flory will remind you that it's not that serious. Don't go up on the roof of the White House and create an out-of-control situation. Keep your spiral mild and ignore the Trump administration. Hey, it's Josh Bloom, as so named by my biological life givers. Now that you know what a mild spiral is, I hope you will incorporate this technique into your life and use it to its full advantage. Please feel free to report your findings, and meanwhile, please have sympathy for me and the subject matter relating to my own recent mild spiral. It was a day and a half of pure hell that I have emerged from with a full heart and a clarified mind. I have been deep cleaning my apartment now that the book is done, which is reminding me about muscles I forgot I had. I forgot that cleaning properly requires stretching. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a 5-star rating for the Josh Bloom podcast in your podcast app and leave a comment saying that you like the show. Don't forget to follow, and in regard to my continued attempt to get you to tell a friend about the show, I feel like giving you a break. You don't have to tell a friend about the show this week, just enjoy it in solitude. I can only imagine how my constant insistence that you tell a friend about the Josh Bloom podcast may have very well disrupted your listening experience. I want you to hear this program with purity, and I will not rest until the day the pressure to tell friends about podcasts is neutralized. Lastly, visit me everywhere for everything by going to superjews.com. That's superjerjews.com for links to all of my social media, and visit superjews.substack.com to subscribe to my Substack, which contains all of my long-form writing. Subscriptions are free, or for a small monthly donation, you can support my work. It helps a lot. Thanks again for listening. I will see you next week.